first of them was Adam, peace be upon him. The prophets were numerous.
And ending with Prophet Muhammad.
Muhammad is the last of the prophets and their leader.
The brothers of Yusuf, they said, certainly Joseph and his brother are more beloved to our father than us. They meant Joseph and his brother from his mother, because they're all brothers. They said, while we are a whole crew of brothers, older brothers, men who are strong and can help our father, and we are beneficial. They're just some pipsqueaks, they can't do anything, and he loves them more than he loves us. Joseph said to his father, O father of mine, I have seen 11 stars and the sun and the moon. I saw them prostrating to me. He was a boy, alayhi salatu wassalam, when he told his father about his dream. He said, O my son, do not relate your dream to your brothers, so that they would scheme a scheme against you. Yaqub told him that, alayhi salatu wassalam, because he knew about the hard feelings of Yusuf's brothers against Yusuf. He feared for him from them. He emphatically warned him. He said, فَيَكِيدُ لَكَ كَيْدًا. They will scheme a scheme against you. He said, and like the honor that you found in your dream, Allah will select you. And He will teach you the dream interpretation and complete His endowment upon you. So, إِذْ قَالُوا لَيُوسُفُ وَأَخُوهُ أَحَبُّ إِلَىٰ أَبِينَا مِنَّا وَنَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ. When they said, surely Joseph and his brother are more beloved to our father than us, while we are a crew. Inna abana lafi dalalin mubin. Certainly our father is in plain error. اقتلوا يوسف أو اطرحوه أرضا يخل لكم وجه أبيكم. They said, kill Joseph, or toss him to some land, so that your father's face will be dedicated to you. If you do that, then your father's love and attention will be dedicated to you. After getting rid of him or after killing him, repent and then be pious. Said a sayer among them, don't kill Yusuf. That's too severe. Homicide. He said, if you want to do anything, throw him to the depth of a well. Then some of the caravans will come and take him away. And this one was Yahuda. And he made them promise not to kill Yusuf. Don't kill him. So they promised that they wouldn't kill him. And then they concocted a plan and enacted it. They said, oh father, why don't you trust us with Yusuf while we are sincere for him? Send him with us tomorrow so that he enjoys himself and plays. And surely we will certainly protect him. It saddened Yaqub to let Yusuf go because he feared for Yusuf, like we already said, and because he was in so much love with him. He was just in love with Yusuf. He couldn't stand to be away from him. So he tried to get Yusuf out of their request. And he gave them two excuses. He said to them, إِنِّي لَيَحْزُنُنِي أَن تَذْهَبُوا بِهِ. It saddens me that you take him. وَأَخَافُ أَن يَأْكُلَهُ الذِّئْبُ وَأَنْتُمْ عَنْهُ غَافِلُونَ. And I'm afraid that the wolf will eat him while you are distracted from him. So what did they say? قالوا لئن أكله الذئب ونحن عصبة إنا إذا لخاسرون. They said, surely if the wolf ate him while we are a crew, we would indeed be losers. That's what they said to him. They only answered one of the reasons that he gave. And as for the other reason, they didn't comment on it because it enraged them. But now he knew that, khalas, they want to do something. And he saw his choice. If he denies them when Yaqub is not looking, they'll get him later. So reluctantly, he let them take him. فَلَمَّا ذَهَبُوا بِهِ وَأَجْمَعُوا أَن يَجْعَلُوهُ فِي غَيَابَةِ الْجُبِّ. So then, when they took him, and they had already agreed to throw him in the well, then what happened happened. So they took him. And there was a well that was 3 farsakhs in distance away from Yaqub's house. So they went out, and then as soon as they were out of sight, they headed right towards that well. They took Yusuf and went towards the well. And it was reported that as soon as they got to the countryside, they exposed their true animosity for him, and they started hitting him. And beating him. And they were on the verge of killing him. But Yahudah stopped them. Don't kill him. Don't kill him. And they took his shirt off so that they could stain it with blood to fool their father. So when they took his shirt off, he said, "Brothers, why did you take off my shirt? Give it back to me. I use it to cover my nakedness, and it will be my shroud when I die." They said, "Call upon the sun and the moon and the 11 stars to make you feel better." When they wanted to throw him in the well, he clung to their clothes. And they pried his hands from their clothing. And so he clung to the wall of the well. He wouldn't let them just throw him. He struggled. So they tied his hands and they threw him in the well, hoping that he would die, that the fall alone would kill him. But there was enough water in there to break his fall. And in the well, there was a boulder. So he went up on that boulder and he started crying. And then they called out to him, "Yusuf! Yusuf! Yusuf! Yusuf!" So he thought that some mercy touched their hearts. And he answered them. So when he answered them and they knew he was still alive, then they started throwing stones at him. And one of them, he took a big rock. He wanted to throw it in and crush Yusuf with it, and Yahudah stopped him. And he stopped them from doing what they were doing. And he's the one who used to bring food for Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِ لَتُنَبِّئَنَّهُمْ بِأَمْرِهِمْ هَذَا. And Allah revealed to him that you shall alert them to this matter of theirs, O Yusuf. لَتُنَبِّئَنَّهُمْ بِأَمْرِهِمْ هَذَا وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. You will get relief. You will escape this calamity. And there shall come a day when you have honor and majesty, and you will tell your brothers about what they have done. And when you do that, they won't even know who you are. That's where we left off last time. So then what happened after they threw him in the well? They slaughtered a lamb or a kid, like a goat or a sheep or a goat, and they stained his shirt with the blood of this animal. وَجَاءُوا أَبَاهُمْ عِشَاءً يَبْكُونَ. And they came to their father in the night, crying. They came in the night because that's the time that people use to take cover. So they felt more emboldened, more encouraged to lie to him in the nighttime. So when they drew near, they all wailed all together. Ah! When Yaqub heard their wailing, he was shaken. He said, "My sons, what's wrong? Did something happen to your sheep?" They said, "No." He said, "What's wrong? Where's Yusuf?" قالوا يا أبانا إنا ذهبنا نستبق وتركنا يوسف عند متاعنا فأكله الذئب. They said, "Oh father, we were ripping and running and competing with each other, racing, and we left Yusuf while we were playing, and the wolf ate him." وَمَا أَنْتَ بِمُؤْمِنٍ لَنَا وَلَوْ كُنَّا صَادِقِينَ. And you do not believe us, even though we're telling you the truth. And it was narrated that when Yaqub heard this news about Yusuf, he cried and he shouted, "Where's his shirt?" وَجَاءُوا عَلَى قَمِيصِهِ بِدَمٍ كَذِبٍ. And then they came with his shirt that had the lie blood on it. The lie blood. The blood that was telling of a lie. Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam, he took the shirt and he looked at it and he turned it back and forth. And then he said sarcastically, "Oh, how gentle was this wolf who ate my son without tearing his shirt." They forgot to rip the shirt. So what's left after that? What's left after that is for them just to maintain their lie only. So he said to them, قَالَ بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أَمْرًا. Rather than that a wolf ate him, what happened was that yourselves allowed you to do something. فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. And so, graceful patience is most becoming. I shall be gracefully patient. وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ. And Allah Ta'ala is the one whose help is sought for the lie that you are telling me. In the meantime, a caravan came and they sent their water scooper to the well and he lowered his pail. So when he did that, Yusuf clung to his bucket. So he thought that he had scooped up water, while what he actually had was not the weight of water, but the weight of a boy. So he pulled him up. قَالَ يَا بُشْرَى هَذَا غُلَامٌ. He said, "Oh, good news. This is a lad." وَأَسَرُّوهُ بِضَاعَةً. And then they tucked Yusuf away, alayhi salatu wasalam, like he was merchandise. وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِمَا يَعْمَلُونَ. But Allah knows what they do. The brothers of Yusuf, they figured that the caravan came and they took Yusuf, so they went after the caravan and they told them, "Hey, that's our runaway slave boy." And they sold him for a cheap price. A few counted dirhams. Could have even been counterfeit money or just worthless money. They said, "Oh, this one is a runner." So they bought him for a very cheap price. And the whole time, why Yusuf didn't say anything? Because he was afraid they would kill him. So the brothers of Yusuf, they said to those travelers, "Shackle him up so that he doesn't run away." So they shackled him up and they took him to Egypt. They stopped at the marketplace in Egypt and they put him on display for sale. When the people of Egypt saw him, they started bidding on him like an auction, each one offering more money Then the last one, until it was the treasurer of Egypt who eventually purchased him. So that Egyptian man who purchased Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, his name was Potiphar. Then in the Quran, he's mentioned by his title, Al-Aziz, the Aziz. So it was said that he purchased Yusuf for his weight in silver, silk, and musk. The one who purchased him from Egypt said to his wife, Akrimi mathwah, give him a good living quarters. Asa an yanfa'ana aw nattakhidhahu walada. Perhaps he will benefit us, or we can adopt him and take him as a child. That's because he sensed that Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam would be an intelligent and clever and mature one. And the reason for his thinking of adopting Yusuf also was that he was impotent. And he was disinterested in women actually. So he didn't used to touch his wife. And so they did that. They gave him good living quarters, good food. He had plush feathers. He had a wide bed. And they took care of him very well. And they made sure that he was educated. He got the finest education. وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا. And when he reached his prime, could be he was 18 years old, could be that he was 21 years old, and other than that was said. Allah Ta'ala gave him executive power, wisdom, and knowledge. Gave him dignity and honor and made him a prophet. And he was a good doer. And he was extremely beautiful. Sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. And when he took on manhood, then what happened? The wife of Al-Aziz fell deeply in love with him. So one day, that one that he was living in her house, she attempted to seduce him despite himself. وراودته التي هو في بيتها عن نفسه. She wanted to have her way with him despite himself. Her name was Zulaikha. She was young, wealthy, impressively beautiful, and living in the lap of luxury. She had high social status. She put on her most attractive clothing and got herself all done up, and she went into where he was, to the room where he was, and there were many doors there, and she locked them all. وَقَالَتْ هَيْتَ لَكَ. And she said, this is for you. قَالَ مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ. He said, أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ. And then he said, he's my master. The people thought he was a slave, but he was not a slave. Ahsana mathwai. He gave me a good living. I will not betray him with his wife. Innahu la yuflihu dhalimun. Surely the unjust ones are not successful. But وَلَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ. By God, she had a hem for him, which was her desire to commit adultery with him. وَهَمَّ بِهَا. What was his hem for her? To push her away. لَوْلَا أَرَّأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ. Had it not been that he saw the evidence of his Lord. Had it not been that Allah made him know that if he was to put his hands on her like that, to push her away, she would have him killed. Some said it means, لَوْلَا أَرَّأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ لَهَمَّ بِهَا. Had it not been that he saw the evidence of his Lord, which is that had it not been that Allah made him an impeccable prophet, he would have had a desire for her. But since he saw the evidence of his Lord, he did not have such a desire for her. وَاسْتَبَقَ الْبَابِ. They raced for the door. They raced for the door. That was the door to the outside completely. Yusuf raced to the door because he wanted to get out, and she raced for the door because she wanted to keep him in. It was said that when Yusuf fled to the door, the locking mechanism disengaged and the lock fell apart so that he could escape. And when he ran for the door, she ran after him to stop him. And she pulled him from behind. وَقَدَّتْ قَمِيصَهُ مِن دُبُرٍ. She ripped his shirt from behind. وَأَلْفَ يَا سَيِّدَهَا لَدَى الْبَابِ. And lo and behold, they encountered her husband at the door. So what did she do? Immediately she went to blame Yusuf. قالت ما جزاء من أراد بأهلك سوءا إلا أن يسجن أو عذاب أليم. There's no compensation for anyone who wanted to do the bad thing to your wife except for him to be imprisoned or to be tortured severely. And she didn't mention Yusuf by name because she was insinuating a threat. But nevertheless, she was subjecting him to imprisonment or torture, so he had to defend himself. قال هي راودتني عن نفسي. He said, she's the one who attempted to seduce me despite myself. And a witness from her family, it was said that this witness was only a baby in a cradle. Allah made that baby speak. What did that witness say, that baby in the cradle that Allah enabled to speak? إن كان قميصه قد من قبل فصدقت وهو من الكاذبين. If his shirt is ripped from the front, then she's telling the truth, because it means he was coming at her. He could have stumbled over his own shirt, or she ripped it, fighting him off. So he would be the liar and she would be honest. وَإِن كَانَ قَمِيصُهُ قُدَّ مِن دُبُرٍ فَكَذَبَتْ. And if his shirt is ripped from behind, then she lied, because it means he was running away. And she grabbed him from behind to pull him back and ripped his shirt. وَهُوَ مِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. And then he would be the one who's telling the truth. And had it not been for her subjecting him to the injustice, he wouldn't have exposed her. He wouldn't have said anything. So when her husband saw that his shirt was torn from behind, قَالَ إِنَّهُ مِن كَيْدِكُنَّ. He said, indeed, this is from the schemes of you women. إِنَّ كَيْدَكُنَّ عَظِيمٌ. Surely the schemes of you women are very extreme. يُوسُفُ أَعْرِضْ عَنْ هَذَا. Yusuf, don't talk about this. وَاسْتَغْفِرِي لِذَنْبِكِ. And you, woman, you repent for your sin. إِنَّكِ كُنْتِ مِنَ الْخَاطِئِينَ. You have intentionally sinned. But the news got out somehow. It was said that she confided in some women and then they exposed her secret. وَقَالَ نِسْوَةٌ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ امْرَأَةُ الْعَزِيزِ تُرَاوِدُ فَتَاهَا عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. The women of the city said, Aziz's wife seduces her slave boy despite himself. She's fallen madly in love with him. Her love for him has gotten under the flap of her heart. إِنَّا لَنَرَاهَا فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. We see that she is clearly lost. Being the woman she is, the popular, rich figure in society, she would lower herself like this? She's crazy. So that was the wives and the daughters of the upper class. of the Egyptians. They heard about her recklessness and they started gossiping about her. And when she heard of their deceit, which was their gossiping, she sent word for them and she invited them and she prepared a lounge for them. It was said that she invited 40 women. She prepared pillows for them and she made a setting that's becoming of their social status. And she gave each one of those women a knife. She wanted them to sit back and start cutting their food and then be dazzled when he comes out. And she said to Yusuf, go out in front of them. They were cutting their food, and when he came out in front of them, فَلَمَّا رَأَيْنَهُ أَكْبَرْنَهُ وَقَطَّعْنَ أَيْدِيَهُنَّ وَقُلْنَ حَاشَ لِلَّهِ. And then when they saw him, they deemed him astonishing. They were so distracted by his beauty that they started cutting their own hands. وَقُلْنَ حَاشَ لِلَّهِ مَا هَذَا بَشَرًا إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا مَلَكٌ كَرِيمٌ. And they said, God forbid, this is no human. This is but a noble angel. She said, this is the Canaanite slave boy that you had delusions about, that you slept on me about him. You thought I was slipping. You hadn't conceived his reality, or else you would have excused me for being tempted by something like this. And by God, I attempted to seduce him despite himself, and he had the nerve to refrain. And by God, if he does not do what I command, then surely he will certainly be imprisoned with the thieves and the murderers and the runaway slaves. Just as he stole my heart and he fled from me and he slew me by turning me down. There in the prison, he will not have any wholesome food or any refreshing drink, and he won't have any relaxing sleep, just as he prevented me from all of that because of my heart being infatuated with him. Whoever doesn't accept someone like me as a prince on a bed with silk sheets will find himself in regret on a dusty mat. The women said to him, yes, obey your mistress. Do what she tells you to do. And each one was calling him to herself when she got the chance. So when Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam heard her threat, قال رب السجن أحب إلي مما يدعونني إليه. He said, my Lord, prison is more beloved to me than that to which they invite me. If you do not divert from me their scheme, I would incline towards them and I would be among the ignorant. فاستجاب له ربه فصرف عنه كيدهن. So his Lord answered him and diverted their scheme from him. إنه هو السميع العليم. Surely he is the all-hearing, the all-knowing. Allah answered his dua and saved him from that immediate trouble that he was in. ثم بدا لهم من بعد ما رأوا الآيات ليسجننه حتى حين. Then it occurred to them after they saw that it looks like a big scandal's going to happen and Zulaikha is going to be exposed. So they decided to put Yusuf in prison for a time, to put him in prison for now and see what happens. And it was said that Zulaikha was the one who got her husband to put Yusuf in prison, because her husband would do whatever she asked him to do. she wanted to break Prophet Yusuf's will and bring him under her whims, or because she was conquered by embarrassment and she was pained by being hopeless of ever getting Yusuf. So she wanted to cover up the situation by locking him up. Or it could even be that she wanted to relieve herself by not having to see him, so she had him jailed. So they locked him up to see what would happen. And Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, he told the inmates that he could explain dreams. And they saw how good he was. They saw his good habits, his exquisite behavior, and his abundance of attractive worship. They were very impressed with him. وَدَخَلَ مَعَهُ السِّجْنَ فَتَيَانِ, and two young men entered the prison with him. Those were two slaves of the king. One was the head baker, and the other one was in charge of the king's beverages. And they were both accused of attempting to poison the king. And on the same night, they saw a dream. قال أحدهما إني أراني أعصر خمرا. So the one who tended to the beverages, he said, I see myself in my dream squeezing wine. I'm squeezing the grapes. I see in my dream 3 branches of grapevines. Bundles of grapes are sprouting and ripening. I am taking the grapes and squeezing the juice out of them and pouring it into the master's cup. وقال الآخر إني أراني أحمل فوق رأسي خبزا تأكل الطير منه. And the other said, I saw myself in my dream. I am carrying 3 baskets of bread on my head, and the raptors were eating from the upper basket. نبئنا بتأويله إنا نراك من المحسنين. Tell us what these dreams mean. You are an expert at that, and you are a good doer. You are so good to the inmates in the prison. You tend to the sick people. You console the disheartened people, the people who are depressed, and you give a lot to the poor. Be generous to us also and explain our dreams for us. So at that moment, Prophet Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, he took advantage of the fact that they were looking up to him and coming to him and asking him for something. And so at that time, he told them that actually he's a prophet and that he comes with the religion of Islam. قال لا يأتيكما طعام ترزقانه إلا نبأتكما بتأويله قبل أن يأتيكما. He said, no food by which you are sustained shall come to you except that I will tell you what is that before you get it. ذَلِكُمَا مِمَّا عَلَّمَنِي رَبِّي. That's a miracle that I can do. That's because I am a prophet, and Allah reveals that to me. إِنِّي تَرَكْتُ مِلَّةَ قَوْمٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ كَافِرُونَ. Surely I have rejected the religion of any people who do not believe in Allah and in the afterlife, they are disbelievers. My religion is the religion of believing in Allah and believing in the afterlife. واتبعت ملة آبائي إبراهيم وإسحاق ويعقوب. And my religion is the religion of the prophets, the religion of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. I am a Muslim, and they are the messengers of Allah. ما كان لنا أن نشرك بالله من شيء. We, the prophets, we are impeccable, and we would never worship someone other than Allah. That is from the endowment of Allah upon us and upon those who follow our religion. However, most of the people are not thankful. They do not appreciate the endowment of Allah upon them. Rather than appreciating Allah's endowment, they worship other than Him, and they commit shirk. And they're heedless. They don't think that they're making a mistake by worshiping something other than the Creator. يا صاحبي السجن أأرباب متفرقون خير أم الله الواحد القهار. O you two inmates of the prison, are numerous lords better, or Allah, the one without a partner, the dominator who has power over everything? Which one makes more sense? You don't worship, instead of Allah, anything but names that you and your fathers have designated. You are worshiping things that you called gods while they don't deserve that name. It's like you're worshiping names. Names that don't name anything. Because these names of God, gods, this name doesn't apply to what you have worshipped. You and your fathers did that from yourselves. The ruling and the permission to worship and to take a religion, it belongs only to Allah. أمر ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه. He commanded that you do not worship but Him. ذلك الدين القيم ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. That is the straight religion. That's the religion of Islam, the religion that Allah commanded the people to follow, the religion of the prophets, but most of the people don't know that Islam is the correct religion. Then, after he talked to them about what was most important, he explained their dreams. O you two inmates of the prison, as for one of you, he will again pour wine for his master. As for the other, he will be crucified, and the birds shall eat from his head. So then the baker, he said, I never saw anything. So then Yusuf said, alayhi salatu wassalam, قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ الَّذِي فِيهِ تَسْتَفْتِيَانِ. Finalized is the matter about which you have asked. It shall come to pass. And he said to the one that he thought would be saved between the two of them, mention me to your master. But the devil made him forget to mention him to his master. فَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بِضْعَ سِنِينَ. So he dwelled in the prison for several years. It was said that the king, first he saw the dream of the cows. Then it woke him up, and he was disturbed, and then he went back to sleep, and then he saw the other dream. This king, his name was Ar-Rayyan ibn al-Walid. The king said, I see seven fat cows emerging from a dried up river. 7 emaciated cows are devouring them. And I see 7 green ears of grain with blossomed seeds, and others that are dry and ready to be harvested. The dry stalks wrapped around the green ones and engulfed them. O counsel, answer me about my dream, if dreams you can interpret. They said, these are confused, mixed up dreams, muddled dreams. They're nothing. They're just whims of the self or whispers of the devil. These dreams, these types of dreams, they don't have any explanation. What is properly explained are the stable dreams. Then that one who was saved from among those two said, and he remembered after a long time, I will inform you of its interpretation. From the one who knows how, send me to him so that I can ask him. Send me to the prison. So they sent him to Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam. Yusuf, oh you who is so truthful, answer us about 7 fat cows being eaten by 7 emaciated cows and 7 green ears and others that are dry. Answer us about that so that I can return to the people, so that they can know about you. Yusuf said, tell the king that these are 7 years of fertility, then 7 years of drought that shall devastate you unless you pull a tactic. So he went and he told the king. So the king sent him back, asking, what should we do? So he instructed them. He said, you sow for 7 years with diligence. That means plant and farm for 7 years with diligence. What you reap, save it in its stalks, except for a little, from which you shall eat. Then after that, there shall come 7 harsh years that will consume what you have prepared for them. That's when you start distributing and using that mass stockpile of food, except for a little bit that you shall store. There's some that even then, don't touch it, leave it. After that, there will come a year in which the rain will come and the people will be saved. And then again, they can start to squeeze the juice from the grapes and squeeze the oil from the olives and from the sesame seeds. And again, they will be able to enjoy beverages and oils and greases and balms and things like that. So Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam, he explained that the fat cows and the green ears were 7 flourishing years of prosperity, and that the 7 emaciated cows and the 7 dry ears were 7 years of drought. And as for that last year, after the 14, he didn't get that from the dream. There's nothing in the dream about it. Rather, he got that from the revelation. Alayhi salatu wassalam. The king said, bring him to me. He realized that he was dealing with a man of complete intellect and sound opinion. And he wanted to promote Yusuf right away. But Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam, he did not rush to leave the prison. So when the herald of the king came to him, he said, go back to your master and ask him, what is the situation of the women who cut their hands? Surely my Lord is knowledgeable of their scheme. He wanted the king, when the king first lays eyes on him, to lay eyes on him as an innocent man, not to look at him with suspicion. Even if the king were to promote him, he didn't want the king to look at him with suspicion and promote him. And he did not want the envious ones to broadcast his case as an infamous folly and take it as a means to discredit him. So he told the messenger to tell the king to investigate those women. So the messenger went back to the king with Yusuf's message. The king summoned the women who cut their hands and the wife of Al-Aziz. He said, What was the matter with you women when you attempted to seduce Yusuf despite himself? They said, God forbid. We know not of him any villainy. We don't know anything bad about him. The wife of the Aziz said, now the truth has been exposed. I attempted to seduce him despite himself, and surely he is certainly among the truthful. The king said, bring him to me. I will use him for myself. I will personally put this man in position for my advantage. Then, when he spoke to him, it was said that the king knew 70 languages, and Yusuf responded to him in all of them. Then Yusuf spoke to him in Hebrew, and the king did not know it. He said, what tongue is this? Yusuf said, the tongue of my fathers. So the king was even more impressed with him. He encountered a man unlike anything he anticipated. He said to Yusuf, Innaka al-yawma ladayna makinun amin. Surely today you are on my authority distinguished and entrusted. Today you are given rank and status, and you shall be entrusted with everything. Yusuf said, put me in charge of the vaults of the land. Put me in charge of the treasury. Surely I am a strict guardian and knowledgeable. It was narrated that the king crowned Yusuf and gave Yusuf his ring, his cloak, and that he had a golden throne lined with gems and rubies placed for Yusuf. Yusuf said, as for the throne, by it I shall strengthen your kingdom. As for the ring, by it I shall manage your affairs. And as for the crown, it is not my attire, nor the attire of my fathers. Then he sat upon the throne, and the kings yielded to him. And the king of Egypt, he authorized Yusuf with control of all of his affairs. And he removed Qitfir from his position, and he died after that shortly. And like that, Allah empowered Yusuf in the land, settling therein wherever he wanted. After Allah empowered Yusuf in the land, and the king forwarded the command of Egypt to him, and he took charge of the vaults, Yusuf established justice for Egypt, and the people loved him. He called the people of Egypt to Islam with wisdom and gentleness, and the king and many people embraced Islam because of him. The drought was intense, and it covered a great portion of the land. The people of Palestine felt the hunger, and so the land of the Canaanites was inflicted with the likes of what hit Egypt. And they knew that there was food in Egypt. It was known that there were supplies in Egypt. Yusuf's reputation for justice, mercy, and compassion preceded him and spread throughout the horizons. So Yaqub sent his sons to Egypt for provisions. My sons, it has reached me that there is a pious ruler in Egypt. Go to him and give him a salam from me. Tell him of your lineage so that he may know you. They went with camels and donkeys to carry the loads, and they went with the money to pay for the provisions. They entered in on him, and he knew them. They still had their clothing and appearance and their situation and their language that they had when he was a boy. And they knew him not. Because of his new attire and because of the long time since they last saw him, which was 40 years by now, they did not recognize him. And also because they thought that he had perished. It was narrated that when he saw them, they spoke to him in Hebrew. So he said to them, tell me, who are you and what is your affair? They said, we are a shepherd folk from the land of Asham. The famine hit us and we came for provisions. He said, how many of you are there? Perhaps you came as spies to see the weaknesses of my lands. They said, Na'udhu billah, we seek refuge with Allah. We are sons of a prophet saddened by the loss of a son who was the most beloved of us to him. We were 12, but that one perished, and our father detains with him that son's brother, seeking comfort in him. And when he prepared them with their provisions, Yusuf said, "Bring him to me if you are truthful. Come to me with a brother of yours from your father. Do you not see that I give full measure, and I am the best of hosts?" He said that because he gave them a comfortable stay. He gave each man a camel's load, which was the limit he set for every customer. It is reported in the tafsir of At-Tabari that to encourage them to bring their brother, he said, "Bring to me a brother from your father so that you can take another camel's load. I only give one camel's load per man. Don't you see how generous I am to you? Bring him so that you can take more. And if you do not come to me with him, then there is nothing to be measured for you from me, and do not even come near me." They said, "We shall get him away from his father, and surely we shall certainly do it." They said that they will deceive their father and trick him until they get the son away from him, and that they will certainly, most indubitably do it without fail. Yusuf said, "Leave one of you as collateral." So they left Simeon with him. Either it's Simeon or Simon, Shamrun. He said to his servant boys, "Return their money to them in their luggage so that they will know it when they return back to their family, so that they will come back." Yusuf was afraid that they would not have the goods that they would need to purchase food another time. So he commanded his servant boys to secretly stash the goods that they came with back into their luggage. When they returned to their father, they said, "O father, the sale of food has been barred from us. So send with us our brothers so that we can buy more food, and surely we shall certainly be his protectors." He said, "Should I entrust you with him as I entrusted you with his brother from before? Allah is better as a protector. I will rely on Allah." When they opened their luggage, they found their merchandise was returned to them. They said, "Oh, father, what more do we want? This is our merchandise returned to us. We will provide for our family, protect our brother, and add the load of a camel. That is an easy load." He said, "I will not send him with you until you give me a most solemn promise to Allah that by God you will surely bring him back to me, unless you get surrounded by an enemy." So when they gave him their covenant, he said, "Allah is a witness over what we say." And he said, "O my sons, do not all enter from one gate. Come in from different ports. I fear for you to get hit by the evil eye, because you are a big group of handsome men. You're very obvious and you stick out. So I fear for you to go all of you together through one door. So go into Egypt through different ports. Or if there's some enemies of yours that you encounter, that they won't catch you and wipe you all out." Yaqub said to his sons, "And I cannot protect you from anything that Allah will to happen to you. Despite whatever caution that I advise you with, whatever Allah will to happen, there's nothing I can do to stop it. The ruling is only for Allah. Upon him I have relied, and upon him let the reliant ones rely." Then, when they entered from where their father commanded them, through various ports, he did not free them from Allah in any way. He didn't do anything to save them from whatever Allah will to happen to them, as we will see. It was narrated that when they entered in on Yusuf and said, "This is our brother. We have come to you with him." He said to them, "You have done well." And then he was very hospitable to them and made them guests. He gave each pair of them a spread with food on it. So Binyamin sat alone and cried. Had my brother Yusuf been alive, he would have seated me with him. Yusuf said to them, Your brother is left alone. So he sat with him at his food spread and made him eat. Would you like for me to be your brother? So Binyamin responded, Who would find a brother like you? However, you are not born from Yaqub and Rahil, Jacob and Rachel. Then Yusuf cried, and he hugged Binyamin, and he said, It is I. I am your brother Yusuf. Fret not about what they used to do to us before. Allah has been generous to us and united us in goodness. Do not tell them of what I have told you. Then, when he prepared their provisions, he put the pitcher in his brother's luggage. This pitcher, it was said that the king's drinks were served with it. And it was said that the king drank directly from it, and that it was golden or silver and decorated with jewels. And then it was turned into a measuring container. So he put the pitcher in his brother's luggage, and then they packed and they went on. They started their travel. And Yusuf let them get some headway. Once they made it a little bit, he sent someone after them. A caller, he called out, O caravan, halt, halt, halt. Surely you are thieves. And it was narrated that Yusuf's entrusted herald, who stopped them, he scolded them, saying, Were we not hospitable to you, and took you in as guests, and gave you full measure, and treated you unlike we treated anyone else, and took you into our homes, and then you steal? The brothers, they said, while approaching them, What are you missing? They said, We are missing the king's pitcher, and for whoever brings it, there is a camel's load. They said, By God, you know that we have not come for corruption in the land, and we are not thieves. So they said to the brothers, What's the payment for that pitcher if you are liars? Or what should be the penalty of the one who took the pitcher if you are liars? They said, The payment for the pitcher is whoever you find the pitcher in his luggage. Whoever you find the pitcher in his luggage, he is the payment for the pitcher itself. That's the payment. Like that, we penalize the unjust in our religious laws. The fatwa that we give for our religious laws is that the thief is made to be a slave of his victim. So Yusuf started with their luggage before his brother's luggage. Either he was doing it himself or someone was doing it by his command, looking through their luggage. And on purpose, he started with theirs and ended with his brother's. Then he pulled it from his brother's luggage. Like that, Allah gave Yusuf a clever ploy, a clever maneuver. He would not have been able to take his brother according to the policies of the king. They said, Oh Aziz, remember that's his title. Inna lahu aban shaykhan kabira. This brother of ours, he has a father who's an old man. It will break his heart so much for us to go back without him. فَخُذْ أَحَدَنَا مَكَانَهُ. Take any one of us. Just don't take that one. But Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, he refused. He said, مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ أَن نَأْخُذَ إِلَّا مَنْ وَجَدْنَا مَتَاعَنَا عِنْدَهُ إِنَّا إِذًا لَظَالِمُونَ. He said, we seek refuge with Allah from taking other than whoever we found our goods with him. That's the rule, according to you, that you gave us. According to you, if we took someone other than the one who took something, who stole something, then we would be unjust. So then the brothers, they lost hope. He said, he's not going to give him back to us. So they had a meeting amongst themselves. They stepped to the side, away from the people, and they conferred with each other. قال كبيرهم ألم تعلموا أن أباكم قد أخذ عليكم موثقا من الله. The biggest of them, which might mean the oldest of them, if so, then that's Reuben, or it means the leader among them. If so, then that means Simeon or Simon, Sham'un. Or it means the smartest of them, then that would mean Yahuda. Qala kabiruhum, the biggest of them said, don't you know that your father has taken on you your most solemn promises to bring our brother back? And before that, you were negligent concerning Yusuf. So what are we going to do? فَلَنْ أَبْرَحَ الْأَرْضَ حَتَّى يَأْذَنَ لِي أَبِي. Then I will stay in this land until my father gives me permission to leave. أَوْ يَحْكُمَ اللَّهُ لِي. Or unless Allah willed for me to leave. Even if it means we need to fight these people. He told them, go back to your father. So they went back home and they talked to their father like what their brother told them to do. The biggest one among them, what he told them to say to their father. They went back and they told him, oh father, surely your son stole. We didn't testify against him that he stole, but we witnessed the picture being taken out of his luggage. And we're not saying that he stole except for what appeared to us, because the king's items were found in his luggage and no one else's luggage. So we're only talking about what we saw. وَمَا كُنَّا لِلْغَيْبِ حَافِظِينَ. We didn't know it was going to happen. And ask the people of the town that we were in. The news spread all throughout the town. Everybody heard about it. You can ask them if you don't believe us. And ask the caravan that we came with. You know them. They know you. They're our neighbors. You can ask them. But Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam did not accept. He didn't believe them. And he said, this is something that you wanted. How else would they know about the rule of the one who stole? You must have told them about the rule pertaining to the one who stole. Who else told them about our religious judgment? فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. My patience with what has befallen me, of losing my sons, it shall be a graceful patience. Patience without anxiety, patience without breakdown, and patience without complaint. Perhaps Allah Ta'ala will give me all of my sons, Yusuf and Binyamin, and the biggest one. And then he turned his back on them. Look at the calamity that Allah gave him. وَابْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ فَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ. And he cried so much that his eyes went white. Means his eyes went cloudy and murky. And so he was blind. And it is valid that a prophet's sadness could reach this level. Yaqub was furious with his sons, but he was withholding that within himself. He said, woe is me for Yusuf. They got annoyed with him and they said, by God, you don't stop recalling Yusuf. You're going to keep on thinking about Yusuf until you become a cripple. Or you die. You want to be a crippled old man? Your love and sadness will consume you and destroy your body and leave you handicapped. So when Yaqub saw this stiffness, this lack of sympathy, lack of empathy, and how they addressed him, he said, I only vent my complaint and my sadness to Allah, and I know from Allah that which you know not. I do not complain to you or to anyone else. I express my grief to my Lord as a supplicant resorting to him. So leave me be with my complaint. It was narrated that Prophet Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam he saw the angel of death in his dream. And he said to the angel of death, "Did you take Yusuf's soul?" So the angel of death said, "By God, no. He is alive, so look for him." So Yaqub said to his sons, "My sons, go and find out about Yusuf and his brother, Binyamin. And do not despair from the mercy of Allah. Surely no one despairs from the mercy of Allah except the disbelievers. Those disbelievers who don't know that Allah has power over everything, and whatever He willed to be shall be, and whatever He did not will to be shall not be. Those are the ones who despair of the mercy of Allah. So go look for your brothers, and do not despair." So they left their father, and they headed back towards Egypt. They went back to Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam, and when they entered in on him, they said, "O Aziz, the devastation and the famine have made us poor and needy and skinny. The damage has touched us and our family. We have come to you with rejected merchandise that's refused by every merchant. So give us full measure and give us a charity. Surely Allah rewards the charitable." So when they said that they and their family are starving, and they pleaded with him, and he saw the poverty that befell them, his eyes overflowed, and he could not hold himself back. He said, "Do you know what you have done to Yusuf and his brother when you were ignorant of what would become of Yusuf as a result of your actions? When you were foolish and reckless?" قَالُوا أَإِنَّكَ لَأَنْتَ يُوسُفُ. They said, "Is it you? Indeed, are you Yusuf?" قَالَ أَنَا يُوسُفُ وَهَذَا أَخِي. He said, "I am Yusuf, and this is my brother. Allah has endowed upon us." They said, "By God, Allah has preferred you over us. He has given you favor over us in knowledge and piety and patience and beauty. We were not patient and we were not pious. So for sure, Allah would give you dominion and degrade us by making us servile to you." He said, "There shall be no blame on you today. You will not be punished." Because he had the power to punish them for the bad things that they did. He said, "May Allah forgive you." It was narrated that after that, the brothers of Yusuf sent him a message saying, "You invite us to eat with you morning and evening, while we feel shy from you because of our transgression against you." Yusuf said, "The people of Egypt admire me, and they say, 'Glory be to the one who made a slave purchased for 20 dirhams reach the level that he reached.' And now," he said to his brothers, "I am honored by you, because the people know that I am among the grandsons of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam." And then Yusuf asked them about his father. They said, "His body has gone thin, and his bones have gone soft, and his eyes have gone blind from his insistent crying and sadness." So when he heard that, his heart was moved with compassion for his father. And so he said, "Take this shirt of mine," and he took his shirt off of his back, "and throw it on my father's face, and he will return to being sightful. And then come to me with all of my family." Yahuda said, "I shall carry the shirt of remedy, just as I previously carried the shirt of enmity. And I will please him and inform him that Yusuf is alive, just as I saddened our father before." And so he was the deliverer of the good news. And Yusuf told them to bring all of his family so that they could reap the benefits of his kingdom after they suffered from the news of his ruin. And then, when they went to go back home, and they left the borders of Egypt, their father said, I find the scent of Yusuf. Had you not deemed me senile, you would believe me. And it was said that they were still 8 days away from Yaqub when he smelled Yusuf's shirt. So the wind carried the smell of Yusuf to Yaqub alayhi salatu wassalam. So what did they say? قالوا تالله إنك لفي ضلالك القديم. They said, Tallahi, by God, but with amazement. You're still on that old misguidance. Your excessive fondness for Yusuf, preferring him over us. You were mistaken then, and you are mistaken now. But then, when the bearer of good news came, he threw the shirt on Yaqub's face, and he became again sightful. He returned to being sightful. And then Yaqub said, Alam aqul lakum inni a'lamu min Allahi ma la ta'lamun. Did I not tell you that I know from Allah what you do not know? And it was narrated that Yaqub said to Yahuda, how was Yusuf when you left him? So he said, he's the king of Egypt. And Yaqub said, upon what religion was he when you left him? He said, upon the religion of Islam. Yaqub said, now the endowment is complete. And upon that, and everything was clear, and it was known that they had been dealing with Yusuf all that time, and he was alive, and that their father was right, they repented. And they said, Ya abana astaghfir lana dhunubana inna kunna khati'in. O Father, seek forgiveness for us for our sins. Surely we were sinful. Yaqub said, I shall seek my Lord's forgiveness for you. But in the meantime, Yusuf sent to his father supplies and equipment, as well as 100 rides. And it was said that he sent 200 rides so that he and whoever was with him could prepare for the trek to Egypt. When Yaqub got close to Egypt, Yusuf came out along with the king and 4,000 soldiers and noblemen and all of the people of Egypt. It was said that Yusuf sought permission from the king to go out and meet his father, and the king accepted and commanded some of his elite personnel to go out with Yusuf. And they met Yaqub while he was walking, leaning on Yahuda. And then when they entered in on him, he embraced his parents. And he said, enter Egypt, God willing, in safety. And he hugged his parents, and he met them in private. It was said that Yaqub and his progeny entered Egypt 72 in number. And it was said 63. And it was said that when they entered Egypt, Yusuf, he took his seat on his throne, and they all gathered for him. وَرَفَعَ أَبَوَيْهِ عَلَى الْعَرْشِ. And he honored his parents by seating them on the throne with him. وَخَرُّوا لَهُ سُجَّدًا. His 11 brothers and his 2 parents fell in prostration to him. And then Yusuf said, Ya abati hadha ta'wilu ru'yaya min qabl. O father, this is the explanation of my dream that I saw when I was a child. قَدْ جَعَلَهَا رَبِّي حَقًّا. My Lord made it come true, and my Lord was generous to me when he brought me out of the prison. And he brought you all from the outskirts to me after the devil instigated between my brothers and me. Surely my Lord is merciful. He is merciful to whatever he wills, and surely he is all-knowing and all-wise. It was narrated that Yaqub stayed with him for 21 years, and then he died. And he requested in his will that Yusuf bury him in Asham beside his father Ishaq. And so he went personally and buried him there. Then he returned to Egypt and lived for 23 more years. When his affair was complete, his self yearned for the perpetual kingdom, so he longed for death. And it was said that no prophet before or after him desired death. And Allah made Prophet Yusuf die at the good and pure age of 120 years. His death was 361 years after the birth of his great-grandfather Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. And then the people of Egypt disputed amongst themselves, and each party was so selfish in wanting to have Yusuf buried in their own precinct of the town that they were on the verge of fighting each other. And then they finally agreed to make for him a coffin of marble, made of marble, and to bury him in the Nile River, where the water would run over him, and then the river would branch off, and the water can flow throughout Egypt, and that way everyone can have a share in his blessings. And Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, his body remained in Egypt until Prophet Musa came 400 years later. And Prophet Musa transported the body of Yusuf in its coffin to Jerusalem. It was said that Yusuf left a will that when he dies, he is to be transported from Egypt to Asham and buried with his fathers. So when Moses left Egypt, alayhi salatu wasalam, he took Yusuf's body with him. He and the children of Israel, they took Yusuf's body with them. It was said that Yusuf had two sons, Ifrathim and Misha. Ifrathim, he was the father of Nun, the father of Prophet Yusha. And the pharaohs eventually inherited the rulership of Egypt from the Amalekites. And the children of Israel remained under their authority upon the remnants of the religion of Yusuf.
All prophets are attributed with trustworthiness and intelligence. Consequently, lying, dishonesty, stupidity, and dullness are impossible to be among their attributes. Prophets are the greatest men that ever lived. Allah blessed the people with the prophets and messengers to guide them to obedience and warn them against disobedience. Muslims must believe in all the prophets.